Re-Zero, Volume 7, Chapter 4A, A Gamble to Resist Despair. The chorus grew higher and farther, echoing as they overlapped. In a world thick with mist, there were three fish-shaped figures, their enormous bodies swaying as they swam. The twisted mouths stretching from one side to the other of their huge frames were bizarre, continuing to emit a sound like fingernails on glass. It was a malevolent monster that swallowed people of many races, extinguishing innumerable lives. That single monster had wielded enough power on its own to inspire despair within the hearts of people, and now there were three, mocking those who dared defy them. As Subaru looked up at the white whale floating above his head, he heard the small sound of someone falling to his knees. A string of similar sounds followed, joined by a chain of high-pitched clatters, weapons falling from their wielders' grasps. He saw that the shoulders of one of the knights participating in the expeditionary force had fallen, and the man stared at the ground as he crouched low. His shoulders trembled, and none could hold back the weep rushing up into his throat. When Subaru gazed at the man's fellow knights around him, not one had a single word to say. They'd come fully equipped with all the numbers they could muster, seized the initiative, and slammed their firepower into it, and having taken the offensive to that extent, they'd come to this senseless situation. Their numbers had already been halved by the depth of mental contamination, and their remaining main fighting strength had been pulverized in a surprise attack by the newly emerged white whales. Even if they gathered all their remaining strength together, it would still amount to less than half the fighting strength they had started with. On top of that, the demon beast they had to fell number 3. Surely there was no chance of victory. Everyone grasped it in a single second. They realized that their objective and their lives would be ruined in that place. The terror of the demon beast was great, and the bonds the demon beast had robbed them of weighed heavily, and yet they were powerless, unable to make it pay for the loss of the precious life it had stolen from them. With the weight of all that crashing down, and the hearts that had supported them until that moment had broken, who could blame them for falling to their knees on the spot? In the face of such a senseless, unchangeable reality, how could anyone deny that they should give up? "Don't let it swallow him!" Abruptly, an angry bellow reverberated far across the silence that had befallen the plain. Hearing that voice, Subaru unwittingly lifted his face, and he saw a lone figure kicking off the ground, leaping toward the white whale. A girl, with a flutter of her maid uniform and wielding a vile, spiked iron ball with her hand. With a gale entwined around it, the roaring ball came to a halt when it slammed straight into the white whale's nose, easily smashing the hard outer hide, continuing to gouge out exposed flesh and bone, widening the destructive wound further. The white whale let out a scream and tried to lift its head up to the sky, but a blade of ice stretched up from the ground to impale its tail, and it twisted its body around. The small-statured girl whirled her iron ball around, scoring a merciless hit that made the white whale's enormous brain shudder. Its blood was scattered all about. "We can still save him if we get him out before he's in its belly." There was a young man shouting, holding a rent shoulder, his blood flowed from his brow. He walked out in front, giving orders to the girl swinging the iron ball. He grimaced, bitterly feeling the powerlessness that kept him from joining the battle itself. But even so, he stepped forward. A land dragon stood at the young man's side. He slowly climbed onto its back, his clumsy posture clearly from not being accustomed to riding, but still, He strongly gripped the reins and shouted, "We're not done yet! None of this is over!" Before the knights seized by surrender, the young man lifted his face as if he was bolstering his own spirits, bared his teeth, opened his eyes wide, glared at the white whale, and yelled, "Don't think this is enough despair to stop me!" Subaru keenly felt the sound of despair's footsteps approaching. One was above his head, one was behind him, and one was right in front of him. 3 in total. This ain't funny. How much fighting strength had they poured to confront just one of them? And how much did they actually wound it? Because things weren't going so well, it called out 2 of its buddies to start the real fight. It was all a bad joke. Just how many senseless hardships would it take until fate was satisfied? Shielded by Ricardo, Subaru had been tossed to the ground and remained there as he grit his teeth. Had he not clamped his molars shut, he would have let out a sound of weakness, or even sobs. Gently, he felt everything before his eyes go dark. His brain was unable to bear the strain of accepting the bitter circumstances. His mind seemed ready to give out from hopelessness at any moment. Suddenly, he realized that the familiar despair was mocking him, chummily wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "What? Is it not about time you gave up once more?" He could not see the face of the faint shadow, but someone was chuckling, the familiar voice suggesting a surrender. With those words, Subaru vividly accepted the weight of the circumstances before him that barred his path. Around him, Subaru saw the knights falling to their knees and giving up, just like him. They, too, comprehended that the situation before their eyes was beyond their means. Robbed, even of the ardor to begin to resist, strength drained from everyone's eyes, and the willpower to even hold a weapon evaporated. And that sight broke his spirit, and he gave in to the futility wrapped around his shoulders. He realized something. Right at his side was Rem, thrown from the land dragon at the same time he had been. Having fallen on her side, she sat up, and he saw the sadness on the side of her comely face. Her cheeks were taut, her lips blue, and her eyelids shaking. When he stared at her like that, he thought rather casually, "Her eyelashes are long, huh?" And he believed. A smile suits her so much better. That was why. "You're not getting any more stage time ever." He briskly shook off the chummy arm wrapped around his shoulders. With the shadow's mouth twisting in visible surprise, Subaru's next action was to turn a smiling face toward it and deliver a straight punch, smashing the black shadow to pieces and halting the shaking of his body. Stupid. Pathetic. He didn't have the time for doubts or stopping in place. So there were 2 more whales. So what? His limbs could move. He could lift his face. His eyes could see. His voice came out. It reached her. Rem was there. Rem was alive. There was nothing there, nothing at all, that warranted giving up. "Stand up." Over and over, again and again, his heart had been broken. "Stand up." A senseless fate had buffeted him, with despair being the conclusion forced upon him. "Stand up." When he thought all was lost, he threw everything to the wind, trying to abandon all as he ran. And when even that was not permitted, he faced his own heart. "Stand up." What for? for a time like this, damn it. He rammed a fist into the ground, pushing his torso upright. When Subaru howled, lifting his face, Rem looked at him in surprise. Subaru turned to her, extended his hand, and glared at the white whale in front of him. It ain't over yet. It won't end like this. Subaru. Let's do it, Rem. It's our big scene. Meekly, she slowly grasped the outstretched hand that then pulled her to her feet. As she rose, Subaru hugged her around her chest, drawing her face close. Giving up ain't our style. Not me, not you, not one of us. With a howl, Rem ferociously leaped at the white whale, twisting her body and ramming her fist into its stony hide. Her left arm swung around the iron ball, which crashed into its target with a tremendous sound, causing the white whale to groan in agony as blood frothed forth. Rem was attacking the one that had swallowed Wilhelm from behind. The maw looked like it was biting down, but it was hard to believe that Sword Devil would be chewed so easily. As long as the head ain't mashed, we'll drag him out somehow. Pulling the reins, Subaru didn't feel particularly secure, but he entrusted his body weight to the land dragon. For Subaru to handle the reins himself, rather than Rem, was troubling. He had basically zero training. He only had the time on the road before arriving at the Great Flugel Tree and the free time after arrival to practice using a dragon mount. There was no way Subaru, lacking any experience whatsoever with horses from his old world, could master land dragons with only a few hours of practice. It was all he could do to set direction and speed, and to cling so as to not fall off. Ever so, the highly intelligent land dragon perfectly grasped both Subaru's intentions and his capabilities. The pitch-black land dragon Subaru had chosen as his very own mount was being considerate so as to not let his inexperienced rider fall. Good land dragon, nimble on your feet, sturdy, and more than anything, very quick on the uptake. From this moment on, your name is Patrash. It's the only name I could think of for such a loyal partner. Let's go, Patrash. Circle around the tip of the whale's nose. The loud shout and a crack of the reins spurred the land dragon into a run. Patrash responded with a gallop at a forward angle, knowing no fear as it charged toward the mighty white whale. With Rem clinging to its body, the white whale was twisting to try to throw her off, but it sensed Subaru's approach and instinctively turned its head in his direction. Sniffing Subaru's scent is a privilege for me alone! Rem leaped to the side of its face, delivering a kick with the force of a cannonball. The enormous face was greatly dented, and there, the iron ball scored an additional direct hit. The whirling iron ball broke through the white whale's cheek, snapping molars and sullying the grassy ground reddish-black from blood and saliva. A yellow liquid dribbled out of the wound as the white whale screeched. Its body crashed to the ground and began to writhe upon it like a fish out of water. The earth was gouged in the process, with clods of soil violently scattered about. The wildly waving tail split the surface of the ground, mowing the wind and flying towards Subaru from the side with him seemingly unaware, and just when he was in danger of a square hit. Ta-da! Mimi is here! The little feline beast person intervened a moment prior to the blow, the staff in her hand swinging to deploy a magical wall. With a yellow glow, the blow bounced off, and the liger and land dragon rushed through the resulting gap at once. Taking a breath, Subaru turned back to look at Mimi, the kitten that had saved him, and said, "Thanks a bunch. I'd have bought it right after taking the counterattack, all cool and stuff." You can praise Mimi more, but for today, I'll praise you for working so hard, mister. Working? Mimi puffed her chest out. Then, when Subaru crooked his neck, she laughed at him. As she did so, she gave an orange pigtail a flick of her finger before she responded. Everyone was all blue and couldn't even stand, but you bounced back first, didn't you? Good boy. You're amazing. Not as good as Mimi, though. It's no big deal. I'm not about to let despair get the better of me. With Mimi extolling him in a loud voice, Subaru bit his lip and grimaced. That's right. It wasn't anything to be praised for. Just how much bitterness had Subaru tasted along the way? Compared with the impossible horrors he'd faced, how did a situation where he could still fight afford him the leeway to immerse himself in surrender? If he had time to wallow in surrender, he might as well cough his blood out and go searching for hope, for defiance was far, far, far more comforting than surrender. As Patrash bounded, rushing straight forward, a fish silhouette suddenly appeared right in front, opening its huge mouth. Seeing the inside of the grotesque throat at point-blank range, Subaru instantly leaned forward as they took evasive action, but the mist filling the mouth dispersed a little faster than he could evade it. "Close your mouth!" From far overhead, an invisible blade swung down, vertically slashing the open maw. The power of the blow closed the mouth by force, and the white whale writhed on the ground as it passed Subaru and Mimi. When Subaru lifted his head, after just barely escaping, he saw Krush was galloping over from the other side of the battlefield. She ran until she pulled alongside Subaru's land dragon, wildly glaring at the white whale as she spoke. From a glance, this seems to be the worst possible case. What happened to Wilhelm? If you remember him, that means he wasn't wiped out by the mist. It's up to Rem now. Shifting his head, Subaru replied while keeping his eyes on the white whale turning around and locking its sights on them. Receiving his answer, Krush looked toward Rem, still in fierce combat, as the iron ball smashed downward. Fresh blood spewed forth, and that white whale made the ground quake as it thrashed in a sea of its own blood. What do you see, Subarunatsky? What do you mean by what do you see? If you're suggesting in the sense of winning, I could say something self-serving like, I see various things separating my life and my death, but... Not that. Do you not find it strange? Krush sent an invisible blade after the bridge of the nose of the white whale pursuing from behind. The white whale groaned, its pursuit crushed at the outset, while Subaru commented, strange, as he looked at Krush. The white whales have multiplied to 3. Viewing it simply, the situation is desperate. But if the white whale was truly a horde of monsters, is that really something we wouldn't notice? I don't really get what you're trying to say. It must be some kind of trick. Krush said it bluntly, turning her gallant face towards Subaru. By nature, having that powerful gaze shooting through Subaru made him stand straighter. So we've got to figure out what it is. We shall render aid so as to buy time for your escape. Either way, we cannot hold for long. We must do something. Retreat is no longer an option. So declaring, Krush changed the orientation of her land dragon and moved away from Subaru. Making a wide turn, she circled around the white whale, glaring down from above as she showed her face to the scattered units of the expeditionary force, raising her voice. Stand! Lift your heads! Seize your arms! What have you come this far for? The gazes of men, seized by misery and despair, rose. Before them, Krush grandly drew her treasured sword and raised it to the heavens as she cried. Look at that man! He carries no weapon. He is helpless, so weak that the wind alone could carry him away. I have seen this powerless man battered down with my own eyes. As Subaru ran, Krush pointed him out with the treasured sword of her house as she cried louder still. He is weaker than any one of you! Yes, everything Krush said was true. Subaru was weak, weaker than anyone. He had no power to fight. He had no ability save that of surviving. He had been crushed over and over, a man who had been beaten down and defeated many times. Yet, it is the weakest among you who was the quickest to yell, "It is not over!" It was the most helpless man there who had grit his teeth and said he could still fight. He held back his tears, coughed out his blood, and in spite of that, stood up to resist for all to see. Then why are we hanging our heads low? Our power is weak. Even altogether, I know not if we can reach the demon beast's throat. Even so, if the weakest among us has not surrendered, how can we be allowed to fall to our knees? Yeah. The broken men with knees that would not stop shaking looked to one another, encouraging one another to stand once more. They picked up their fallen weapons and drew close to the land dragons waiting at their riders' sides. They reached out with their hands, took the reins, and where they had been kneeling now appeared knights astride their land dragons' backs. The mounts neighed as the knights drew their swords and cleared their throats once more. A great shout arose, a battle cry to take pride in their own souls, as if to rally their own hearts. Behind the weakest man on the battlefield, they let out a ferocious roar, driving away the foolishness that lowered their heads. People call this emotion shame. It was the fear of shame that made the knights slip their heads, cut through the various emotions holding them in place, or give in, and gave them the strength to step forward. Let's go! Charge! Oh! With their once yielding souls re-inspired, the knights resumed their advance. The force of land dragons kicked up a cloud of dust, but the expeditionary force now totaled just under 50 souls. They ferociously charged the two white whales within reach of their swords, with Krush at the head. Listening to the upsurge in the expeditionary force's morale and to the scolding from Krush that had sparked it, Subaru couldn't keep the corners of his lips from making a strained smile. Rub in how much of a weakling and a beaten dog I am, why don't you? The fact he couldn't bring himself to refute it only proved the severity of his case. They could call him what they liked, use him as they liked. It was the truth that Subaru was helpless, a loser, broken and flung about, and thus he had arrived at that point. It was because Subaru understood it that he could bellow then and there. Losing didn't mean it was over. Being broken didn't mean you had to submit. Being flung about meant there was still time, and being helpless was not allowed. I'm counting on you, Batrash. Go right up close one more time to the tip of its nose. The land dragon leaned down at an angle, clawing the ground and making repeated sharp turns, crying out as it rushed the white whale. With the white whale trying to shake Rem off before their eyes, Krush and Mick split off squads, went on the attack in support. The knight's swords kicked up sparks as they rent the white whales at her hide, and they pulled away so that mounted dragons running parallel could aid explosions via magic crystals. The white whale let out a cry, slapping the ground all around it. Even that act of writhing and pain was difficult to evade violent force to the human beings around it. One land dragon and mounted knight pair was sent flying by the attack, crushed by a very heavy weight, the sound of bones breaking scattered about. Blood spurted, and a single human life was snuffed out. Subaru burned the sight into his eyes. A chill ran up his spine. He could not have saved him in time, but this was the result of Subaru's decision. It was the result of Subaru choosing to start that battle. He could not look away. The instant Subaru rejected that fact would be the moment he lost to the emotion of shame. When he'd lost to his own heart, when he'd faced his most despicable weakness, he deeply, gently rejected those weaknesses even so. That was why he could pamper himself no longer. With a shudder, he tasted the sensation of blood churning away as he cut through the wind, trusting fully in the land dragon. The annihilating mist spewed by the countless mouths was right beside them as they grazed past. If even a single one of his fingers should have touched it, Subaru's existence would be erased and brought to an end. His entire body would be engulfed in a sense of loss different than death, and he would vanish, ended without anyone to remember him. However, Elfula! Like we'll let you! Where do you think you're looking? Wind magic swept the mist aside. Blades rising with the bellow, and mauls at the roar, pounded and crushed the mouths spewing mist. The knight's support slightly thinned the barrage of mist. Even so, the mist firepower was cause for despair, but Subaru's entire nervous system had grown finely attuned to the aura of impending erasure. Leaving their course to Patrash, Subaru's flesh took evasive action atop its back. He sprang onto his arms and pushed up. In doing so, Subaru evaded the mist pressing upon him from the rear, but having completely thrown off his balance, he was on his way to fall when... Guts! Gripping the reins, he thrust his knees into the saddle, barely averting the fall. The gripping power he'd honed swinging a wooden sword, something meaningless in his original world, allowed his hands to just barely hold on rather than slip from the shaking and vibrations. Subaru hung on to Patrash, clawing along the ground as they broke past the barrage. Their vision cleared, and when the considerate land dragon slackened the pace, Subaru reseated himself, ending what must have looked like the most disgraceful sight ever. His endurance, never great to begin with, had fallen, and at this rate, next time would be one-sided. But Krush and the others advanced on the white whale, launching their attack. Gotta rack my brain. Ah, shit! Don't just put your life on the line. Think, damn it! Even as he breathed raggedly, putting his life on the line to earnestly act as decoy once more, Subaru's thoughts wandered to the trick Krush brought up during their prior conversation. Where the white whale's ecology was concerned, Subaru was the least informed person there. He had no way of appreciating the damage the being had wrought beyond the extent of the words Great Expedition. There had to be something Subaru could notice, something that only he could notice, that others could not. Wilhelm had been chasing the white whale for 14 years to avenge his wife. The notion that the sword devil, having nursed the grudge to arrive at that field of battle, could overlook such critical information as there were multiple whales was simply unthinkable. Naturally, that meant the phenomenon was unknown. Then why hadn't anyone been told? No, why had it escaped their knowledge? Why did more come out all of a sudden? The premise that there were 3 to start with is just weird. He felt like he was about to catch on, but before he could, Trash's earnest spirit had brought them within smelling range of the white whale. Krush was chasing the white whale, adding slashes from her treasured sword to it, but its gaze was shifting heavily towards Subaru. Simultaneously, it opened its mouth, releasing a roar that seemed to shatter the air along with the dense, vastly destructive mist that had filled its oral cavity. The trash stomped down, sharply changing directions. That got them out of the oncoming tyrannical mist's immediate reach, but was half a step short in getting them out of its effective range, yet. "We'll handle this." "We won't let ya." Hetero and Mimi intervened, buying them the time to take that last half step. The twin cat people opened their mouths, unleashing overlapping roars of "Wah!" and "Ha!" The sound waves intermingled to combine into one, intertwining as they transformed into destructive power. Then the vast oscillation wave rippled across the plain, striking the onrushing mist head-on and blowing it apart. "Whoa! That's awesome!" "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah! Praise me more! Woohoo!" "There you go again, big sis." Subaru's honest praise made Mimi puff her chest out, her cheeks loosening in satisfaction. Running alongside her, Hetero exhaled, the two sandwiching Subaru as they darted close to him. "We'll support you. Without you, Mr. Natsuki, I do not see any way of winning this battle," Hetero said. "So we can go bam boom bada boom and stuff?" Mimi asked. "Big sis, we've been going bam boom bada boom, but we still need Mr. Natsuki's help." Heh. The low-stress conversation continued, with Subaru stuck in the middle. Leaving aside Mimi, acting like she didn't grasp the situation in the slightest, Subaru turned his head toward the receptive-looking Hetero and said, "That team-up attack, that's the one you smacked the white whale with midway, huh? Can you do it again?" "Min is tight, so one more and I will be at my limit. Big Sis and I will defend you until the captain finishes healing up." "That Ricardo guy, he's alive?" And Subaru raised his voice at the unexpected good news. Hetero said yes as he nodded. The gesture spread the relief in Subaru's heart. And the liger Ricardo had ridden was cruelly slain. He'd seen the large amount of blood and feared Ricardo might have been blown away without even a trace. "Our gravely wounded captain had a message for you, Mr. Natsuki." "A message? It's not something like, 'You owe me big'?" "I believe he will say this to you later from his own mouth, but it goes as follows. Ahem. What? They got lighter. Fact I ain't dead is proof of that." End of message. Hetero conveyed the message, mimicking Ricardo down to his Kararagi dialect. Subaru made no comment on the quality of the portrayal as he mulled over the meaning of the words spoken to him. It was a message Ricardo had literally put his life on the line to get to him. If he could only wrap his mind around the meaning within and the real message behind it. "You don't sound anything like him." "Yeah, not one bit. You have no talent for this. Not at all." "Is this the time to say something like that?" Mimi innocently concurred with Subaru's insensible remark. Hetero refuted their thoughts with a voice on the verge of tears, but Subaru let that slide off him and looked up at the sky. Two of the white whales were still tangling with the expeditionary force engaged in fierce combat. On the other hand, the white whale floating in the sky, the commanding view of the battle, was calmly watching from up high. Subaru felt that its behavior was somehow unnatural. The expeditionary force had lost its main fighting strength, and the diminished squads were split apart, fighting on two fronts. Even with Subaru fulfilling his role as a distraction, if the white whale floating in the sky were to join either front, it would be enough to decisively shift the course of the battle. If either force was gobbled up, they were finished. And yet, the white whale did nothing. Why? Ricardo's message. "Lighter," Ricardo had said. He was conveying the reason he hadn't died after putting his life on the line. So what did that mean? Lighter, but what was lighter? His life? Certainly life was lighter on the field of battle, but he didn't think that's how it was meant. Lighter. Lighter meant, this is a heavy, hard situation. What the hell can be lighter? He put all his weight on the trash and charged for the tip of the nearest white whale once more. With Crush and the others all over it, the white whale's oral cavity aimed their way, but an invisible slash from Crush at the magic crystals lobbed into it and inflicted explosive damage. A cry went up among the knights. Even as their numbers diminished, one here, one there, they were currently maintaining the battlefront on inexhaustible morale alone. Was this how strong human beings became when they resolved to defy death before their eyes? After all, the expeditionary force had challenged the white whale with its full roster. Having lost their main fighting force and even much of their numbers, the fact that they were still resisting by force of arms could only be said to be the power of will. You can't expect even the power of will to explain all this, though. Having thought that far, Subaru gasped, lifting its face. He looked back at the white whale left in the lurch behind him, glaring at the demon beast's distant visage. Then he realized what felt so off. If that's the case... Subaru gritted his teeth, a chill running through his entire body, and the possibility rose and coursed through him. Transmitting his intent through the reins, the trash made a sharp turn and ferociously approached the other white whale. Rem, fighting ferociously, with her full Oni power unleashed, rode a liger as she smashed hole after hole in the white whale's torso. Even with her apron dress sullied by demon blood splatter, she smiled firmly when she sensed Subaru's approach. Seeing that happy expression as she was daubed in whale blood was disconcerting, but as prudent as it was, Subaru watched Rem with fascination. Even with the situation at such a disadvantage, Rem trusted in Subaru's reckless resolve. Her faith, her love, could not go unanswered. Without any exchange of words, Subaru's land dragon crossed Rem's liger, with Subaru going toward the tip of the white whale's nose and Rem turning her mount toward its tail. There was no need to stop to discuss it. Both knew that Subaru had his own role to play, and Rem had hers. When Subaru circled to the front of the white whale, the demon beast, sensing his approach, shifted his head in his direction. Above its gigantic eye, multiple mist-spewing mouths appeared, drooling as they emitted white mist. Ta-da! Ba-bam! Whoosh! Scatter, scatter! The liger Mimi rode rushed to the left of the trash, to the right, above, and all around. As Mimi made decisive poses and voiced sound effects atop the big dog's back, the staff in her hand glowed, blocking the mist with a magic wall, buying Subaru and Batrash enough time to evade before the barrage reached them. It's gonna cost you big, mister. I'm grateful enough. When this is over, I'll thank you 100 times over. Okay then. At Mimi's laconic reply, he turned his back and ran parallel in pursuit of the white whale. Then he overtook it and got out in front. Subaru turned, and he and the white whale glared at each other. The demon beast, its one eye dyed crimson, let out a high-pitched cry at the defiance of the boy, as annoying and small as a pest. But the beast's appearance lent conviction to Subaru's own thoughts. Neither that white whale nor the one facing Crush and the others had a left eye. Just like I thought. There ain't 3 of you, damn it. You split apart. The one floating in the sky was surely wounded in the same places as the first, including the loss of its left eye. The missing left eye was the battle wound Wilhelm had inflicted on the white whale in the early fighting. It was crystal clear there could only be one reason the same wounds were on not a single beast, but the 2 others as well. The one in the sky had split itself, bringing the other 2 into being. The hits are lighter because the offshoots only have 1/3 of the fighting power. That trick explains why we can fight them even with way fewer people. It explained why Ricardo, struck in the surprise attack, was not killed in the process. So too did it explain why the expeditionary force, diminished in numbers, was able to keep fighting against multiple white whales. Subaru had abandoned the convenient thinking that would peg it on the miraculous power of will, and it was precisely because Subaru was such a contrarian that he had arrived at the offbeat answer. The power of the annihilating mist was absolute. Accordingly, the white whale had increased its manpower at the cost of its own endurance. If the tyranny of numbers broke the spirit of the expeditionary force, the battle would surely end there. Subaru had a hard time believing that the white whale understood the weakness of the human heart and had resorted to the tactic with that knowledge. But the white whale, having the power to split itself, was an incontrovertible fact. What would have happened if Subaru hadn't rebelled against surrender when he did? Subaru could not grasp what would have happened had he not howled. The current Subaru would not allow himself to perceive a future where he hadn't. He never wanted to stare at the white whale's ugly mugs so long ever again. What the? Before Subaru, forming the conclusion, the movements of the white whale pursuing him changed. Where it had once floated in the sky, it now rubbed against the ground, as if some foreign object inside its body was causing it agony. Big sis, now! Mimi understands. It's hard when you have an itch you can't scratch, huh? Hetero, sensing a favorable opportunity, leaped forward, and Mimi, understanding the white whale's movements, followed suit. The twins marched their movements in a pincer attack on the white whale from right and left, opening their mouths at the same time when... Wah! The howling waves from left and right greatly warped the white whale's torso, and the shock wave punched through the outer hide to the innards. They bounced off the hardened hide, cracks ran across it, blood flowed out, and the next moment... Zah! The part of the belly that rubbed against the ground's surface swelled from the inside, only for flesh and blood to break apart. Reddish-black fluid flowed out like a muddy stream, and spewed out, riding that stream, was... Wilhelm? The sword devil, his survival uncertain after being engulfed by the white whale, had returned. Subaru rushed over to Wilhelm while the expeditionary force restrained the thrashing white whale. Wilhelm, his entire body smeared with blood, fell to one knee, holding half his body up with the sword. I was rash and careless, he groaned. You don't need to talk. Oh, crap. I don't know what to do here, but at least you're alive. Let's get back to Ferris first thing. When Subaru reached out his hand, he drew in his breath. The state of Wilhelm's wounds was far beyond his expectations. He still had the willpower to grip a sword, but he was knocking on death's door, his mangled left arm included. The torch of his life threatened to burn out at any moment if Subaru didn't find a healer, pronto. And yet, when Subaru rushed over, Wilhelm politely refused his hand. Planting his weight on the sword he leaned upon, he clenched his teeth, trying to stand on his own power. No, yet I can still fight. This ain't the time. You'll die in front of the whale. So none of this, it's not enough to kill me, or I'm sleepy crap. When it comes to life or death, I know more than you do. What are you saying? Scolding the mangled Wilhelm, Subaru grabbed his body and dragged him up. During the time the two bickered, the cat people's siblings linked back up with them. The old man came out. Mr. Wilhelm, are you all right? When the twins came rushing and saw Wilhelm's grave injuries, both instantly went into action. Mimi applied simplified healing magic to the aged swordsman's wounds, and during that time, Hetero looked up at Subaru and said, "Even Big Sis's healing magic cannot do much to heal these wounds. Mr. Notsky, can you get Mr. Wilhelm as far as Mr. Felix?" "Yeah, I can see for myself Wilhelm's in bad shape. If he isn't treated, it'll be too late. I really want to bring him myself, but..." Subaru glared at the white whale as it began to rouse itself once more. The belly wound ran deep, and the bleeding from the opening hadn't ceased, but the demon beast continued to spew mist from the mouths all over its body, showing no more sign of giving up the fight than Wilhelm had. There was no mistake. At present, Subaru's distraction was no small part of their fighting strength against it. If Subaru carried Wilhelm off, the fighting would only take a turn for the worse. Even besides that, I might end up leading the white whale straight to the wounded. Can I leave Wilhelm to the two of you? We can do that with our Ligers. But do you have something in mind? Hetero accepted Wilhelm from Subaru, groaning a bit at the disparity in body weight as he put the man onto his Liger. After that, he looked up at Subaru, taking the hand of his blissfully laughing sister as he said, "If there is a chance to win, I will listen. If not, I must take my sister by the hand and flee." "Eh? Why? We haven't beaten them yet." "Big Sis, be quiet." Her little brother's statement made Mimi pout her lips in visible dismay. Watching the exchange between the twins, Subaru said, "I suppose so," and accepted with a nod. "You're mercs. You're just working for money, not like me, Krush, and the knights with the grudge against the whale. No obligation to risk your lives." "Do not misunderstand. We are not obligated to throw away our lives." His face and demeanor were meek, but Hetero gave Subaru his opinion with fortitude. Gazing down at the beast people, not even reaching his own hips, Subaru exhaled deeply. "Sorry, but there's no time," he said. "I think there's a chance to win. For now, just get Wilhelm to the rear. I've gotta talk to Rem and Krush." With Batrash beside him, Subaru practically jumped onto its back, straddling it as he ran his gaze overhead. He looked up at the sky above, glaring at the abominable, fish-shaped figure leisurely swimming therein.